I remember when I first became a parent, one of the very first pieces of advice that came to me was this: it's gonna fly by. Now, I didn't really believe him in the moment because time seems to stop, doesn't it? When you first have your first child or when a second child is born, it's exciting, everything stops, you're not at work anymore and everybody's paying attention. And those early years did seem to really last a little while, but I look back on it now, and I have a son who is starting his first year of university as I speak. I have another son who is starting high school, and I can promise you he was right. One of the hard realities I think we have to come to terms with as a parent is this: we have less time than we think, but we also have more influence than we imagine. Now, if you have less time than you think and more influence than you realize, how do you leverage that wherever you are in the parenting spectrum? Because some of you have a house full of toddlers. Some of you actually might be tempted to think, no, I had influence, I don't have influence anymore. It doesn't matter whether your kids are moving into middle school or high school, or they're finishing high school and moving into the college years. All the research shows this, and you might not believe it, but I would encourage you to Google it for yourself. When your children are at home, no one is more influential in their lives than you are. Now, that's pretty clear when they're toddlers, but I promise you, even when they're in high school, you are more influential than their friends. They won't admit it, it doesn't feel like it, but you are. You're more influential than the media. You're more influential than the music they're listening to. You are the greatest single influence in their lives. So the question then becomes, if the time is shorter than we think, but the influence is greater than we imagine, how do we leverage that? And that's why it's so important as parents to imagine the end and to focus our priorities on what matters most. A natural way to think about leveraging your influence as a parent when you're imagining the end is to ask a question like this: what do I want them to do when they get older? It's a very natural question. Grandparents ask it, you ask it, teachers ask it, kids themselves ask it. But what if you shifted the question? What if the question wasn't, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? What if the question becomes this: who will you become? You see, who you are moves into every sphere of your life. Who you are impacts your marriage, it impacts your career, it impacts who you are in your relationships, it will impact your parenting down the road. When you shift the question from simply, what do you want to be or what do you want to do, to who will you become, it shifts everything. I'm so grateful that as a parent, I still have influence. And if your kids are a little bit older, just hang in there. You are the greatest influence that they'll have in their lives. As parents, we can be so grateful that we are the greatest influences in our child's life, because think about it. If your parents are still alive, their grandparents, your parents are still alive, they're still influential in your lives. You still care about what they think. What matters to them matters to you. And if your parents were to go, your grown parents, we're all adults. If your parents were to go through a major life change, if they were to convert to a different religion, or a dad who smoked all of his life was to stop smoking, that would still have a significant impact on you. So don't ever minimize the influence. And if your kids are young, I just want to encourage you, shepherd that influence as much as you can. I had an experience a couple months ago where my wife and I were reorganizing our family room, and she had been doing some photo projects, so it was my job to find a new storage space for all the photo albums. We put them in this big chest that sits in our family room, and I was looking through them one night, and my kids are 18 and 14 now, and as I was looking through the photo albums, it seems like just yesterday that I was teaching my kids how to ride a bike or taking them to their first day of school. But it wasn't. It was years ago now. And if you're a parent of very young children, I just want to encourage you, think now about how you want it to end. When they go off to college, when they finally leave the nest, and it will happen sooner than you think, what do you want to be true of them? Who do you want them to become? And as you focus your priorities on what matters most, you have the opportunity as a parent to steward your influence to the greatest degree possible.